Hello everyone, welcome to the 8th episode of the Journey to Grandmaster series, where I showcase 3 games that I played recently in my journey to becoming a Grandmaster. The reason I haven't been uploading for 3 weeks is because I've been studying more chess than I've been playing. These games were over a week ago, and I have achieved 1400 a very long time ago, but I've been studying so much that I get so tired afterwards, and at one point I even became dehydrated. But yeah, I've been studying a lot, and that's why I haven't been making these videos, because I haven't really been playing the game. I've only been studying it. But these are 3 games I played a week ago when I hit 1400, and the first game starts off with d4, knight f6, e3, g6, bishop b5, and I thought this bishop was so bad that I was able to gain some tempo and fianchetto my own bishop for free. So I play a6, he plays bishop a4, b5, bishop b3, bishop b7. Now I have control over the light squares, and I'm staring at the g2 pawn. Knight to f3, bishop g7, fianchettoing my bishop, getting ready to castle, and my goal this game is to open up the scope of my dark squared bishop and open up my light squared bishop and have just constant pressure on both sides of the board. And a5 is played for some reason. I was confused why. d5. After I played this, I knew immediately it was a bad move because it blocks in my light squared bishop, and I knew immediately that I shouldn't have played d5 here, because now I'm not staring at this knight and this rook. So d5 was played, knight to c3, putting pressure on the pawn. I play knight b to d7, preparing c5, a c5 break to open up my dark squared bishop. Bishop d2, c5, and d takes c5, knight takes c5, attacking the bishop. So bishop retreats to a2. And I play, instead of castles or queen c7 or anything else, I play knight to e4, because I saw that after trades my dark squared bishop would be open. So knight f to e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, and I'm threatening the b2 pawn now and this bishop. So c3, strengthening the dark squares, but he traps in his bishop. And I calculate that castles is way better than just taking his dark squared bishop, because his bishop's basically dead and it can't really go in the game because c5 leads to his light squared bishop getting trapped or dead. So castles, bishop c1, getting out of the attack from the knight, and the knight has a good outpost here. Rook to c8. After I played this, I was all like, this move isn't really that good because I already have 2 pieces staring at the d3 pawn, and if he ever plays b4 trying to get out, I have already 2 pieces on here, and I'm probably winning a rook if he does play b5. So after I played this move, I was all like, this move isn't really that great. But I played rook c8, knight to d4, trying to blockade the dark squared bishop, I believe. I was confused when he played this, so I just played e5, booting him back to where he was. And I thought this gave me a free tempo to open up my bishops after trades, after I played d4 here. But after d4, e takes d4, e takes d4, and knight takes d4, I was thinking, how do I continue making pressure on his pawns here to open up my dark squared bishop? And I didn't see any more progress here, so I play rook to e8, threatening discovered attack on the king, potentially winning the queen. But here, the engine wants me to play rook takes c3 here, And this helps open up my bishop. By sacrificing the rook, this line happens, knight takes c3, attacking the queen, queen d3. And bishop takes g2, attacking the rook, taking a pawn. Rook g1, bishop to e4, attacking the queen. And now queen takes c3. And now bishop takes d4, and I'm winning the rook back in the end of this line. Plus 2 extra pawns, I believe. So rook to e8 was played. Castles. Knight to d6 was played. Preparing knight to f5, trading off the knight to keep my bishop pressured. Pressure on the diagonal. My plan was at some point a5, b4, trying to open up the scope even more into the queen side. Bishop to e3, protecting his knight. I got confused when he played this because this move is not good. And before playing f5 immediately, I played queen d7 because after f5 here, let's say if takes, and my pawn would have to take, and I didn't like this structure being destroyed here on my king side. So I play queen d7, preparing knight to f5. f3 was played, which completely hangs the bishop on e3. I don't know what he was thinking here, but he blunders the bishop. So knight to c2, attacking my rook. Rook e to e8. Knight d4 was played. Queen back to e8 because I wanted to have my queen on g6, pinning the knight to the king and adding more pressure on this knight. So queen back to d8, not f5 here. And now f4, allowing me a free tempo to b6, queen to b6, queen g4. This move did nothing. I was so confused. And instead of taking immediately, I decided to add even more pressure to the knight on d4. And after rook a to d1, I guess he was scared of knight to e3, but knight to e3 isn't really that good of a move. I believe I calculated it after the game. This is the next game and I'm white, and the previous game got me into 1400, as you can see. So this is my first game as a 1400. So d4, knight to f6, bishop to f4, d5, e3, c5, main line London. But instead of continuing the main line is bishop d6, bishop g3, and castles, and then bishop d3. This is the main line, and instead of going for that, he takes me out of theory. I didn't really know what to do here, and I just played h3. Typical London idea. Just in case the knight goes to h5, you could just go back to h3. I didn't want this bishop being traded off because he gave up the dark squares. He didn't try to fight for it. So I just wanted to keep my bishop here. And h3 is played. Castles. And then bishop d3. Targeting the h7 pawn. Getting some good light square control here. And he wastes the tempo going to d6, fighting for my dark squared bishop. And here, I was debating whether to do this line where d takes c5, making him waste another tempo just to regain the pawn. But then I calculated knight b3, and then he just goes back to d6, and then what I just did nothing. But I could actually just go c2 here, queen c2, and just continue as normal, make him waste a tempo going back, and then trade would be fine here. And so instead of that line, I just go knight to e5, something I've never done before in a London, I believe. In a main line, I guess, because I don't really enter much main lines, but I go knight to e5 here. And my hope was if he takes, he just gets forked here. But of course he doesn't play that, queen to e7. And then I bring my knight in to protect my knight here. So my bishop can't move, but I wanted all my pieces towards the king side here. And knight to d7, a typical London move, forcing me to take. or in some lines, but I don't really need to take. If he takes me, I could just plant another knight here, and I'm chilling. And here, I wanted to experiment. I know I hit 1400, but I didn't want to play safe here. I wanted to see if something would work, and I experimented. So I did a Greek gift by taking on h7 with the bishop. Bishop takes h7 check, sacrificing my bishop. And apparently, I know the engine says -1, but after the main line that the engine gives, it's actually better for white. So king takes h7, knight g5 check, king back to g8, and now queen h5. And as you can see, it's now equal. And here, I thought I miscalculated. No, wait. I thought he would play rook t8 here, trying to escape, but he can't really escape because it's checkmate. And as soon as he played knight to f6, I thought I messed up. And I was a bit freaking out here because I did not expect knight to f6 to be played. And I thought I messed up, I thought I'm losing, but I just play on. Because once you start an attack, you need to commit to it full force. And queen to h4, queen c7, and then there's another line here. The best move is knight to g4, because if rook to d8, e8 or something takes checkmate. If, let's say, bishop takes, knight takes, pawn takes checkmate. If, I don't know, let's say knight takes, it's just checkmate. And the only move, if I played g4, the only move that saves the position after g4 is rook to d8. And I didn't find I did find g4, but I thought it didn't work for some reason. I saw g4 and I didn't calculate it because immediately after I just saw knight takes e7. And here I was hoping that he doesn't know that you can actually sacrifice your rook for 2 minor pieces. I was hoping he didn't know that fact. And he didn't know it because the best move is actually rook takes f7. Here I calculated rook takes, bishop takes, queen takes, sacrifice the queen on h8, and this would be an equal match. But because he didn't know he could have sacrificed his rook, he thought here for a bit, and I'm guessing he thought this is unstoppable checkmate. And so he just sacrifices his bishop, and I just checkmate him. And that's the second game. The third game here was played like a day or two later, and I played this game very bad. I'm not proud of this game because I played this game when I had 5 hours of sleep that day, and I also played it very late at night and I was very tired, so I didn't calculate much at all, and I had a very bad position. So it starts off with an advanced Caro-Kann, but this variation equalizes for black pretty easily. Just trade the bishops and play e6, and black is actually equal here. This is a very weakening move, but because I didn't calculate that well in this match, I played some really experimental moves very fast, and things went south. Knight to e7, knight to f3, knight to d7, c4, bishop to f5, targeting the d4 pawn, and opening up my bishop, c5 locking it, bishop to e7 developing, and g4 is kind of a problem, but you just trade off everything here. Castles was played, h6, stopping, well, this move is very bad. For some reason I hallucinated he might have had an outpost here, but I knew that outpost was bad, but for some reason, again, I was tired and I was like, I didn't want to do, like, I didn't want to deal with any outpost or anything. The reason why this outpost is bad, because if he were to go here, I could just play h6, just booting him away. But I played h6 without him going for any outpost, so this move was a nothing move. Knight to c3, castles, b4, starting an attack on the queen side, preparing b5, b6, trying to open up my bishop a bit, trying to stop b5 here, a4, and here I should have played a5, but instead I didn't see a5, so I just took, which kept my bishop locked in. And queen c8, I'm trying to improve my position on the queen side here. And I didn't really calculate that much. And here I thought for some reason f6 was a good move. But as soon as I played f6, I saw that g4 was a very good move. But once I saw the engine after the match, g4 is actually a bad move. It says it's equal, but after the main line, rook takes b1, and knight takes d4. Well, last time I analyzed it, it was plus 1.5. Yeah. Plus 1 for black. Because after all these trades are done, I will have a good attack on the king side here, the very weak king side. So this is actually very good for black, g4. If I found knight takes d4 here, knight takes d4 could also be played. I believe it's knight takes d4, then rook trade. And it transposes into the other line. But I did not see knight takes d4. I actually saw it for a split second, but I thought this move was so bad I didn't calculate further. And I should have calculated further. I was like, don't I just lose a knight for no reason? And so I found another line that kind of keeps the knight, but it doesn't really equalize at all. So knight takes c5, sacrificing the knight, because I was going to lose this knight anyways. Knight d takes c5, bishop takes c5, check. King to h1, knight to e7, getting out from the attack. Knight to h4 with a potential outpost, a very annoying outpost. Rook takes b1, knight takes b1, f takes e5, f takes e5, rook takes f1 check, queen takes f1 check. Now I know you're thinking, I'm down material, why am I trading? Because I've been studying king and pawn endgames right now. It's one of the things I've been studying, just the endgames. I have an endgame book I'm reading, and I just wanted to see if I could liquidate into an endgame. Remember, I wasn't thinking at all here. If you see my previous videos, I usually have 30 seconds left on the clock for most of my games. But this match, I was playing very fast because I didn't want to think because I was too tired. But yeah, queen to e8, potentially trading this knight off so it doesn't have an outpost here. g5, knight g6, trades. And here I'm equal. And I should have taken with the queen, actually. Oh, wait. No, I'm actually winning here after this trade. And I didn't see it because, again, I didn't take any time to think here. I was just trading off pieces, hoping to get into a king and pawn endgame. I could have actually saw checkmate if I took my time to think. Mate in 4 here, missed it. Knight to c3, bishop b4, pinning the knight. But I saw that this pin doesn't really work because he could just drop back to b1, protecting the bishop at some point anyways. So queen g2, trading off the queens for some reason. And I thought the more pieces off the better because I know how to play king and pawn endgames because I'm studying it. Queen takes g2, king takes g2, king to f7. And again, I'm not thinking at all here, so I'm not playing very good moves. Bishop takes d2, knight takes d2, king g6, knight f3, king f5, attacking the pawn. And here I blundered a bit. I blundered this pawn over here because I wasn't really thinking. And I lost that pawn, which could have been a passer. Oof. Knight takes a7. Now he has an outside passer, which is a losing endgame for king and pawn endgame. But I kept playing on because I bet I was gambling that I knew more about the endgame than my opponent. So d4, king f2, king d3, knight b5, king c4, knight c7, d3, king to e1, c3, trying to promote this pawn, king d1, stopping me entirely, e5, getting out of the attack of the knight, knight d5 check, d4 attacking the knight, knight to f6, and I play e4 hoping he would trade off his knight, because this might have been a little bit easier for me to play if his knight is off the board. And so knight takes e4, king takes e4, a5, but a5 I'm in time to capture this pawn, because after king to d5 I am in the what you call the square of the passed pawn, and if he keeps moving I will eventually take it. So I take his pawn, and here, okay, so this is a rook's pawn, right? Which means white has to be very careful here, because if my king enters g7 or g8, or blocks the white king from entering g7 or g8, the key squares, then it's a draw. So I go for the key squares here, and here he should have taken on a6 and he would have won, but instead I guess he thought his pawn wasn't far enough, so he plays h4, and now it's a draw because I hit the key squares and stalemate. And here, all the way back here, the only move is actually takes. Any other move is losing. But if he took h6, I'm willing to bet that most players don't know how to play the endgame, so he might have actually gone to g5 here maybe and try to push, and then I would have just drawn. Yeah, he had to be very careful here because I ended up making a draw, and I kept 1400, but this match was so bad. I wasn't thinking at all. As you see, I have 10 minutes left, and on every other game, like if you look at my profile, I'm always at, like the games I do well, I'm always at 30 seconds left in the end game, not 10 minutes left. So I didn't think at all I was playing very bad, but I managed to steal the draw. If you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And have a nice day. Peace out.